this one's going to be kind of a guess what it is kind of fly. I know what it is, and you'll be able to tell really quickly probably as I tie it. This one is one that I'm going to just tie for the fun of it. I'm not going to fish it. I don't think I would ever fish this pattern quite the way that I'm tying it here today. So at least for now, I'm going to keep it under wraps a little bit. And I think I probably mentioned before that, you know, sometimes I just enjoy tying just for the fun of it. Just to relax and have some space, and that's kind of what's going on here today with this particular pattern. So starting out here with what you can probably tell is black thread, and I'm going to go ahead and let that take its way all the way around the bend of the hook here. I'm going a little bit slow because I want a specific taper out of this one. So now comes the exciting part of watching me take 5 million thread wraps. We do have a scud hook here in the vise that we'll be tying on, and we're using a 14-aught thread for this particular pattern. And what I'm really going to try to do is get this a little bit beefier right in the middle. Not so much on the ends, so we're going to want it, I guess, sort of oblong, if not like football shaped. And I'll try to speed up a little bit, because I know that, well, hopefully I relax when I'm doing this. I enjoy it. So maybe you can sit back and grab yourself a drink, nice cool drink, and just sit back and watch and kind of discover this pattern, which, like I said, the gig will be up very quickly in terms of what kind of a bug that I'm tying. So there's, I guess, your first hint is it's a bug. It's not a leech, it's not a minnow, none of the above. So you'll want to use about half of your bobbin of thread on this. Yes, I am kidding. But I am going to use quite a bit of thread. And I'm going to do some work with my tweezers as well. We'll mess around a little bit with some turkey biots as we work on the pattern. We're going to use multiple colors of thread as well, so you know, it just gives you you know, a lot of different options and approaches. Not necessarily teaching you a heck of a lot, other than me just having some spare time this afternoon and saying, hey, I want to get a little bit creative here, and let's see how things turn out. I've not tied this specific pattern before, so I'm kind of making it up as I go. I hope it works. If not, then I probably won't put the video up. That's the beauty of the video. So we're getting to about where I want, right there. So I'm just going to go back down around that bend of the hook a little bit and capture some of the frayed fibers that were sticking out there. Go ahead and take a couple more passes back and forth here on this side. So we're starting to get that nice bulbous look here on the pattern. And now that I'm down here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just flip this upside down. I say that a lot, but it is one of those places and times where it's helpful to have a rotating vise. And I'm going to grab some wire. This is brassy size and it's black. And I am going to tie it in on the bottom of the hook. And to do that, I'm going to do kind of a cross wrap where I go over it this way with a couple of wraps. And then I'll go ahead and hold it, maybe even pull it a little bit so I get it more even. And then I'm going to take a couple wraps, cross wraps. Presuming I can get that out of the way. There we go. So we got a couple of cross wraps there. So basically I'm just doing an X pattern for, let me see if I can figure out how to do this on the video here. At least I was hoping to. So basically I'm going to come over a couple wraps, and then I'm going to go over the other side. We're basically just tying in an X, and I do not want much buildup here at all. I'm going to move these pieces of wire a little bit back and out of my way a little bit, and then I'm going to grab my whip finisher because at this point I'm pretty much done with what I'm going to use the black thread for. So I'll just throw in a couple of whip finishes turns there. We'll grab our skizzers. And we are now thread free. So we're going to now switch over to more of a rusty brown color of thread. And we'll go ahead and we can start this closer to behind the eye of the hook. And then just kind of wrap it backwards. And what I'm going to do also here is I'm noticing that my material is kind of moving, or my hook is moving around there in the vise a little bit. And if it keeps doing that, I'm gonna tighten up my vise a little. So we've got our rusty orange material tied in here. Again, I don't want to build up very much bulk at all here. The next thing that I'm going to do is similar to the black. This time I'm going to use, again, brassy size, but this is going to be amber. I'm going to, again, tie it on the bottom underneath. So I'll do exactly what I did before in terms of that kind of figure 8 wrapping pattern. Just to lock this wire in place. This may not work out so well after all, but hey, the idea was good. Okay, so I've got that in place now. I want to clean that one end up right there, just a hair. And from here, we're going to go ahead and push that back a little bit. And then we're going to come forward a couple more wraps is all. And then we're going to do that one last time with one other piece of amber wire here. So I'm going to get that attached here underneath the hook. Couple wraps that way, couple wraps this way as well, wanting to avoid bulk as much as I possibly can. And now I have lots of these wires poking out. And for now, I just want them kind of out of the way. So I've got all this in pretty good order at this point where I've got all of that tied in. I'm not going to put any more metal on here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to search far and wide for some a gap or cement or super glue or whatever you want to call it. And I'm actually just going to put a tiny, tiny little bit on the thread wraps where I've got the wire. And that's just to try to help hold those into place a little bit. So now I can turn it back around. I'm going to go ahead and take a few more turns in between these pieces of amber wire, including that one. Just a couple, because I really don't want any bulk back in this particular section of this fly. And then I'm going to go ahead and go up to the eye of the hook, and I'm going to again kind of just bend those like that, push them out of the way. I'm not worried about them breaking or anything. I'm going to build up a little bit of a head here, so that my thread is about the same width as the hook eye here, and hopefully you can see that. Now I'm going to grab my, I'm going to grab a biot, a turkey biot, and we're going to use this orange. It matches really well with the rusty, and it also matches the amber wire that we've used. And I'm going to just find two of these more towards the end of this piece. We'll give them a clip. And then I'll just set those down so I can find them. For these, I want them to curve inward. Biots always have a curve, or should. This time I want it to curve inside, and so I'm just going to kind of hold that into place. Okay, I've got that in place. I'm going to just take a loose wrap here. Because I want this to be in a very specific position here. So I've got one there on that side. Now I'm going to grab the matching also amber, and it's curving towards me, and that's the direction that I want it to be. I'm going to turn my vise a little bit so I have a better view of making sure I get the length pretty close to right here as I tie this one in. So we'll take that initial loose wrap here just to secure this over against the side of our hook here, by the side of the bead. And again, very small. I'm not making these very big at all. I'll turn my vise here on its edge so that I get a better angle to clip off this excess biot material from either side. There we go on that side. And we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Get that standing up so I can snip it fairly close. And basically what you've got now is, you can see we've got two kind of antenna-like things poking out there the front. And now we're going to circle back to the butt ends of those biots and kind of just clean them up a little bit. So we now have a mess going on. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see if we can land this. I literally am making this up as I go along, and I wouldn't even have any idea how to fish this. Actually, I probably could figure it out. What we're going to do is we're going to try to build some bulk, kind of like we did at the back, except we're going to do it at the front of the fly here, and it's going to be smaller than, at least in length, than the black that we have on the back. But I do want it to be a nice sizable protruding kind of ball there. At the front, and that's going to be pretty good for me. I'm going to whip finish it at this point, but in my mind, we'll see if it works in reality. We still have quite a ways to go. So here we go with 1, 2, 3, 4 thread wraps there. We're going to be using UV on this, so I'm not overly concerned with anything coming undone. And I'll circle back in now with my scissors and cut my thread. I'm going to now turn to my flashlight or my blue light, because we're going to start using a little bit of resin, UV resin on this. And as I use the UV resin on this, I'm going to want these wires to be pulling out pretty straight, because I don't want to get much, if any, resin on any of those wires here. So I'm going to pull them kind of far straight out away from the body, just so they don't get kind of caught up in the resin. So that's all I'm doing right here. Hopefully you can see that I've just kind of spaced them out. And now I'm going to go to work artistically, in theory, with some of the resin here. And I'm going to start on the back, and I will turn my vise a little bit like I just did, just so that I can make sure that I can see what I'm working with here. And I'm going to start on the top and just drag that UV down. And this is where you just have to be patient. So I'm actually going to probably put multiple coats on here. When I'm doing this, I'll usually just, I know it wastes the battery, but I'll usually just leave my light on and reach back, get a little bit more resin on my needle here, my sewing pin, and do about the same thing all over again. This time I'm going to try to get some on the sides as well. And I'm going to hit it with my torch, my flashlight, getting that to harden itself up. Okay, now I'm just going to take my vise, rotate it upside down, and we're going to put some UV on the bottom side of the pattern here. And I'll hit that with my light as well. I'm guessing, if I'm doing this correctly, in any way, shape, or form, you have probably by now began to figure out what this is, or what it is going to be. I'm still not going to tell you, though. So now let's get some on the, I want to get some on the top, here on the front. And on either side. Just like so. Go ahead and hit that with our UV light as well. I'm going to want that a little bit bulkier, and so what I'll do is, after I do the bottom side, I'll just go back to the top and add a little bit more resin to the top of the fly. But for now, I'm just going to turn it upside down and get this bottom part taken care of here. And after I get that bottom part taken care of, I'll kind of twist it more your direction, so you can kind of start to get an idea of what this looks like on the underneath as well. As I throw my UV, there we go. I just get so excited. I just can't help myself. So using the UV here to just harden underneath, and hopefully you'll be able to see. Now we're starting to get a lot more shiny kind of a profile here. I'm going to need a tiny little bit over the back of this fly. I want to keep that middle section pretty skinny though, so I certainly do not want to drown this in resin. And then for good measure, I'm just going to go back and do a little bit more at the on the top here. So I'll leave my light on. I'll grab my resin again. I'm just using a Loon UV clear thin. I don't need a ton here. I'll wipe off my expensive sewing needle, and we'll just kind of finish hitting this with our UV. Hey, we're getting closer. I know the anticipation is just killing you. So I'm going to put my resin away, and I'm going to reach for one of my latest discoveries, tweezers, which are really awesome. But anyway, I'm going to start by, I'm going to pull these wires kind of straight up in the air on either side. Like so. Same on the back with these black ones. I want them straight up in the air. And then the ones in the middle, same thing. I want them straight up in the air. And I may have to kind of reach in with a fingernail to make that happen here with that one. So now that I've got those all straight up in the air, I'm going to use my tweezers here. And I'm just going to kind of guess. I'm going to pinch and then just bend it over. That's basically all we're doing here. So the tweezers will hold that in place and allow me to just use my fingers to bend that a little bit. I want to do the same thing with this set here. So I'll grab it with my tweezers and I'm going to bend it straight down. So it's looking worse and worse by the moment. At least I tried, right? Should get a participation trophy or something. Then we're going to do the same here with our black wire. Want it straight up. I'm going to pinch it with my tweezers. Bend it over. Do the same thing over on this side. Grab a hold of that with my tweezers. Go ahead and bend that straight down. And at this point, I'm just gonna, whatever looks good, whatever feels good. These are way over exaggerated. Hey, I'm almost done. Once I have it to about here, I'm going to go ahead and come back in with my scissors and make some final clips so that the legs here are not quite as long. Kind of just like so. And you can muck around with this for hours if you want to. But we have an ant. Yeah, I finally told you what it was. You probably figured it out when I was doing the black. Just for fun. Again, I don't know that I don't even know how I'd fish this, but it is kind of fun to put together. So I hope you enjoyed it.